Arrivé le jeudi 5 juillet 2012 aux environs de 22 h, heure de Los Angeles, nous sommes aujourd'hui au Convention Center où la délégation générale de la promotion économique de la Côte d'Ivoire en Amérique du Nord organise sa première fois exposition de la Côte d'Ivoire ici à Los Angeles. Ce salon se tiendra les 6, 7 et 8 juillet 2012 ici au Convention Center de Los Angeles.
With that kind of intro, I hope I'm able to live up to those expectations. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, honorables. I think we're also waiting for the ambassador who will be here in a minute. It's my pleasure to welcome you to, I guess, the first 2012 Côte d'Ivoire Expo presented by the Greater Los Angeles Côte d'Ivoire America Chamber of Commerce. It's really a wonderful pleasure for me because as Africans in the diaspora, anytime any of our countries is represented, we are represented. So hopefully I'm really thrilled to see this diversity that has come out to support us. Our family, that's our American families that are here, that have welcomed us and received us incredibly. We're a country where you live and you feel at home, I must confess. I can see friends, corporations that are sitting here, all because we're here, and I'd really want to give you a heartfelt welcome. So thank you for coming. And I'd also, want to seize this opportunity to thank the exhibitors that are here. And then next door, please, if you get a chance, do well to stop by and patronize them and encourage them. And it's also wonderful because it's not just African businesses that are out here today. It's also local businesses here in Los Angeles. And really a wonderful, wonderful day. And I really want to thank Dr. Zhao for putting this initiative together. It's a wonderful pleasure. Yes. It's quite challenging to do something like this of this scope. But so far, Dr. Zhao, we're running great. I know we started a little bit late. We're trying to put everything together, so bear with us, and we apologize for the little lateness. So let's talk about Côte d'Ivoire. Typically, Côte d'Ivoire likes to be called Côte d'Ivoire, right, Dr. Zhao? Yes, likes to be called. I know we like to translate it to Ivory Coast, where we all know if you go next door, you'll see the reason why it's called Ivory Coast or Côte d'Ivoire. You can see the elephant. It's the land of this distinguished elephant and the ivory. Really beautiful. So it is, to me, a nation of immense potential, both economically and politically. It is really making its mark in the scene, not only politically and not only locally, but globally as well. So Côte d'Ivoire is really proving to most other African countries that it can be identified globally in the world. So since we're running short on time, I'd like to get this train and this plane taking off as we're ready to go. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dr. Zhao Ngoma Claude, President of GLACIAC, which is the Greater Los Angeles Côte d'Ivoire America Chamber of Commerce, who will share with us the vision and purpose of today's expo. Dr. Zhao.
Congresswoman Laura Richardson, Excellency Mr. Daouda Diabaté, which is going to be present very soon, Councilwoman John Perry, Honorable Jerome Harton, Mr. Gary Tobin, Mr. Bobby Hines, Mr. Jim McClellan, Mr. Saint-Augier, Mr. Ashi Hervé, Mr. Enza Kamara, Mrs. Maferima Yarasuba, Mrs. Kamano Sewell, Mrs. Glenda Wina, Mr. Yuchina Wargu, Honorables Mrs. and Mr. General and Honorary Counsel, ladies and gentlemen, dearest guests, thank you very much to be here today. Today is a day when together, genuinely, we decided to gather here at Convention Center, Los Angeles. This was probably in providing support for Ivory Coast or Côte d'Ivoire. That is certainly a very good opportunity for Ivory Coast to say today is a great moment. But instead, I would like to say today is a moment that we could all together share for a moment for the love, the unity, the peace, the wisdom, the beauty, as we are all together here, beyond the fact that we could say it's the day for Ivory Coast, but actually it's the day for everybody being here. And I really, to the bottom of my heart, to say thank you to all of you for your presence, for your grace, for your appreciation, for your love, for your friendship. And again, I would like to say, as we would be saying in this kind of moment, I declare open the Convention Center exhibition of Côte d'Ivoire. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Zhao. And now that Dr. Zhao has given me a voice, I can now speak. He's declared that we are open now. And so, but first things first. You know, you can't go to somebody's house without pouring some libation. You have to follow tradition. And to do that, I'd like to introduce to you a very important human being who has done a lot for us. I'm speaking about Congresswoman Laura Richardson, who represents California's 37th district, which includes the communities of Long Beach, Compton, Carson, Watts, Willowbrook, and Signal Hill, as well as parts of the city of Los Angeles and Los Angeles County. Congresswoman Richardson was sworn into Congress in 2007 and is currently serving her third term, which is really a testimony to the trust that her people place in her. The Congresswoman currently sits on the House Committee of Transportation and Infrastructure. She's a member of the Water Resources and Environment Subcommittee, the Highways and Transit Subcommittee, and the Railroads, Pipelines, and Hazardous Materials Subcommittee. Congresswoman Richardson is also on the House Committee on Homeland Security. She is the ranking member for the Emergency Preparedness, Response Communications Subcommittee, and also sits on the Cybersecurity, Infrastructure Protection, and Security Technologies Subcommittee. Can I tell you more? Please welcome Congresswoman Laura Richardson.
When Pamela first mentioned libations, I didn't know that I didn't get the right script. I was like, I'm supposed to have something else other than what I have. First of all, bonjour to all of you. Dr. Zhao, I have a presentation for you and for the organization. Let me say that I am pleased to be here today, and I look forward to hearing from all of our colleagues and people who've taken the time. Mr. Horton, obviously, is a dear one that I've followed in the footsteps of, and so you're in for a real treat to hear from us and what we look forward to doing going forward. I will say to you that as I was speaking with Mr. Horton earlier, we were chatting about maybe how we might help to facilitate Cote d'Ivoire, as well as Nigerian, Ethiopian, and many of the places in Africa, how we might be able to help you to pull together the resources on the federal level, on the state level, so that we can have more business, more support on both ends. I will tell you that in particular, I had an opportunity now to travel twice to Africa once I became a member of Congress. And it was a desire of mine because obviously of my ethnic background, it was as going home. And going to the doors in Ghana and to Cape Town and to Ethiopia regarding healthcare issues and fighting how we can ensure that there is healthcare throughout Africa is very important to me. As Pamela mentioned in my bio, I serve on the Transportation Committee, and you'd say, well, why would I have that interest with Africa? Well, one of the main things is we did a huge invention here in California about desalination with water. And one of the biggest issues in Africa is the ability to move water and to be able to utilize it so we can have the appropriate agriculture and all of the support for the community. For me in particular, when I look at the United States and Cote d'Ivoire, I think of nations where we've been able to shake off the rule, the colonial rule, and to move forward in the strengths of our own nations, and also to move forward in more of a market-based economy. I had more words here, but I think given the time, it's more important that others share. So with that, I'd like to make a presentation. First of all, to the Chamber, to be a part of the first here is an honor for me, and one I commit to remaining supportive going forward to many years to come. I have a certificate of special congressional recognition to the 2012 Ivory Coast Cote d'Ivoire in Los Angeles Business Conference. In recognition of hosting the annual Ivory Coast Conference in Los Angeles, thank you for your dedicated efforts to inform our community on the numerous business opportunities and services and how we might all grow better together. Congratulations. And then, yes. And then I had one more presentation. You know, we all know that President Barack Obama's father comes from roots of Africa. And I thought if you would do me a favor and present this to the ambassador. This is a picture of the president getting sworn in with his family. And I think no greater pride, more than ever, of this country that we have, we share of our first African-American president, but also of African descent, something we share together. Sure. Sure. You can back them up. Yes.
I would like to share this gift with all the person coming from Ivory Coast, from the Ministry of Finance, and I'm calling Mr. Saint, Mr. Assi, Mr. Enza. If they can come here with me, we're going to have together this gift. Thank you very much.
Maybe we stand here for more room.
Everybody looking right this way for you?
Libation, wasn't that libation? That is libation when you give the honor. So let's give a round of applause. Congresswoman didn't understand the libation, but that is libation. And so now that libation African protocol has been observed, let us, take a trip down for me to introduce to you a woman who is, to me, a blend of Africa and the West. She's the director of protocol for Los Angeles. And if you get a chance to have a chat with her, you'd conclude that she is the bridge. So let me tell you a few words about a dear friend, Ms. Glenda McCool-Winner. Glenda McCool-Winner is Director of Special Projects for the Los Angeles County Office of Protocol. She has 16 years of extensive experience in local, national, and international government protocol. She has resided abroad in the Republic of Zambia and in Paris, France. She has also traveled extensively in Western Europe, Asia, the Caribbean, and Africa. She has hosted and attended numerous diplomatic and official events at the highest levels and met world leaders over the years, ranging from Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia, Presidents Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya, and Tito of Yugoslavia, to Minister Mentor Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore, President Mahinda Rajapaksa of Sri Lanka, and many others. She has extensive experience in international media. She has been a medical correspondent in Paris, France, for Deutsche Welle television. She has also been a newspaper editor, public relations executive, and special correspondent for international economic political affairs in Zambia. She grew up in Los Angeles, where she has been an award-winning video producer and a television news anchor, host and award-winning specialist reporter in medical and science subjects with KCBS TV, Channel 2 News, and Lifetime Cable Network. She has also been a radio host. Now, before coming to the Office of Protocol, Glenda served as Director of Communications and Protocol Deputy to Los Angeles County Supervisor Yvonne B. Burke. She was also Supervisor Burke's liaison with the arts and entertainment industry. Her articles have appeared in the Times of London, the International Business Journal, the East African Standard, and the Northern Review in Zambia. Glenda has taught broadcast news writing at the University of Southern California, lectured at Pepperdine University's Graziado School of Business, and belongs to numerous professional organizations. Glenda has one daughter, Pabo Winner. Now, speaking of a global citizen, can this get any better? Please welcome Glenda McCool-Winner.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's really a great pleasure and an honor to be here today. I would like to start off by recognizing His Excellency. I understand that the Ambassador of the Cote d'Ivoire is not here yet, but I know that he will be. Dr. Zaho, the Honorary Consul of Cote d'Ivoire in Los Angeles, the honorable dignitaries from the Cote d'Ivoire, and especially those from the Ministry of Economy and Finance, the Honorable Jerome Horton, friends old and new, of course, also members of the Consular Corps who are here today. Ladies and gentlemen, bonjour, mesdames, messieurs. Or really, to do it the African way, I should say, bonjour, messieurs, mesdames. I know, I know. On behalf of the Board of Supervisors of the County of Los Angeles, it is indeed an honor as well as a pleasure to welcome you all here to this inaugural conference of the Cote d'Ivoire. It is really very fitting that it should be held here in Los Angeles. If Los Angeles County were a country, we would have the 19th largest economy in the United States. The sector that contributes most to employment in the county happens to be the sector of international commerce and trade. The Port of Los Angeles is the busiest container port entry into the United States. The Port of Long Beach is the second busiest port of entry into the United States. So you can understand why we feel very welcoming of all our foreign dignitaries. I will also mention that with upwards of 96 countries represented in the Consular Corps in Los Angeles, we have the second largest Consular Corps in the United States, just behind New York. On behalf of the Board of Supervisors of the County of Los Angeles, which is the governing body, and the 10.4 million residents of the County of Los Angeles, the Board of Supervisors joins the Ivorian and Ivorian American communities in extending congratulations and best wishes to Cote d'Ivoire on the occasion of its inaugural economic exhibit in Los Angeles. The board also takes this opportunity to note that this exposition will promote trade and investment opportunities in the Cote d'Ivoire's agribusiness, infrastructure, housing, and tourism sectors, that the country of Ivory Coast is the world's largest producer of cocoa, that offshore oil deposits have recently been discovered, and is looking forward to the prospects of closer economic, trade, and cultural ties with the people of Cote d'Ivoire. And I would like very much to present this scroll to, I think it probably will be Dr. Zaho? Or perhaps he's not here. Perhaps he's waiting for, no, he is here. I know we were still waiting for the ambassador, and I know he will be here. But in the meantime, Dr. Zaho, it is really a great pleasure and an honor. Okay, he's here too, fine.
Oh, well, even though I'd like to claim Glenda from Africa, but she is a citizen of the world, and we're trying to make everybody more citizens of the world, aren't we? Let's give her a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, how is the ride coming along? It's a little bumpy? No turbulence so far? Thank you. Without much ado, let's continue. I'd like to speak to you a little bit about the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce. It is home to over 650,000 people that it employs. And it is led by our very, very prominent CEO, Mr. Gary Tobin. Mr. Gary L. Tobin assumed the position of President and CEO of the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce on July 1, 2006. The 1,650 member companies of the Chamber employ 650,000 people in Los Angeles County. The private nonprofit organization was founded in 1888 and serves as a trustee for the current and future welfare of the region by championing initiatives that contribute to the economic prosperity and quality of life of the businesses and citizens of Los Angeles, which I'm happy to be a part of. Prior to moving to Los Angeles, Tobin served as president of the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce for 7 years. Tobin began his chamber career in 1975 at the North Platte, Nebraska Chamber of Commerce, and from 1981 to 1999, he served as president of the Lawrence, Kansas Chamber of Commerce. Tobin has business contacts across the United States and served as chairman of the board of directors of the American Chamber of Commerce Executives in 2003. He is currently chairman of Mobility 21, a 7-county coalition for transportation funding in Southern California, and has served on Blue Ribbon committees for LA Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa, the California Endowment, the Metropolitan Water District, and Los Angeles Unified School District. The Chamber partners with many state and local organizations on behalf of economic development projects and government reform. Tobin and the Chamber recently co-sponsored 2 successful statewide ballot initiatives on legislative redistricting and term limits reform. Gary is a native of Nebraska and holds a BS in mathematics from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. He and his wife Janice, who is a senior vice president with U.S. Bank, have 4 children, ages 33 to 38, and 6 grandchildren. We congratulate them. Please welcome Mr. Gary Tobin.
It is indeed a pleasure for me to be here today to say welcome to the City of Angels, the County of Angels. Welcome to Southern California. It's really great to have an international delegation in our community, and we're really pleased that you joined us. You have a population in your country about the same as Southern California, a little more than 20 million people. The population of your largest city is about the same size as Los Angeles, about 4 million people. You share a love for soccer, only I think you call it football, right? I think we have lots in common. We're well aware of your ambitious economic development programs and the poverty reduction strategy that you have in your nation, and we wish you the very best on that. We all know that you're the largest cocoa producer in the world. We've drank your coffee, and we're delighted, as was just shared, with the recent discovery of oil off your coast, which we hope will expand the quality of life for everyone in your country. We really congratulate you for being aggressive about creating jobs, aggressive about reducing poverty, aggressive about a quality of education for everyone in your nation. And the United States stands with you, and we in Los Angeles are proud to be the host of this conference. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks, Mr. Tobin. Well, as you notice, most of our speakers have something unique about them. Now, speaking of first, most of us are experiencing, I think everybody in this country has experienced one of the first that is very unique, and that is electing the first African-American president. Let's give a round of applause for that. You know, as we all observe the diversity that's sitting here, it gives hope for everybody, not just for Americans, but for the world at large. And speaking of such first, this is going to be one of those first. I'm here to introduce to you the Honorable Jerome Horton. And you'd know, speaking of first, that he's one of those that has accomplished something in that regard. Honorable Jerome Horton is in charge with the Board of Equalization of District 4. The Board of Equalization collects California state sales taxes and use tax, as well as fuel, alcohol, and tobacco taxes and fees that provide revenue for state government and essential funding for counties, cities, and special districts. Jerome E. Horton was overwhelmingly elected to the California State Board of Equalization on November 2, 2010, after being appointed to the board by Governor Schwarzenegger and confirmed by the California State Assembly and Senate in 2009. Now, this is where the first is. Horton is the first African American elected to the Board of Equalization since its inception in 1879, and the third African American constitutional officer in California's history. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Honorable Jerome Horton, the Equalizer.
Good morning. Let me thank Pamela for that kind introduction and for making it short. Oftentimes, my introduction is longer than my presentation. Monsieur, Madame, bonjour. Parlez-vous français? I noticed that a few of you don't speak French, so I'm going to deliver my remarks in English if you don't mind. I want to extend to you a warm welcome to the state of California and certainly to the county. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to have you here today for a number of reasons. I believe His Excellency has not arrived yet, but I certainly want to acknowledge him anyway and that ask that you give him a round of applause. This is history in the making, having such a distinguished individual come to our state, and particularly Los Angeles County, is extremely it's just an honor to me. I'm going to hang around just so I can make sure that I have an opportunity to meet him. But I would ask that you give him a round of applause so we know that we also did that. To the ministers and all the dignitaries that are here that I've had an opportunity to meet, gentlemen and ladies, thank you so very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. Ladies and gentlemen that are here that are not from the Ivory Coast and our native country land, I want to share with you that you are in for a real pleasure here. These distinguished gentlemen are just fabulous. They're just exciting to have them here in the state of California as well as the city of Los Angeles. In fact, we have so many distinguished individuals here today. I wonder who's in charge of the homeland. So I want to thank you and just share a little bit about California, if I may. I want to also thank Jasmine for inviting me today. Thank you so very much, Jasmine, for the opportunity. When she shared it with me, she said, Jerome, I want to invite you to an event at the convention. And I said, no, Lord, no, I don't want to go to the convention center. It's parking. I just don't want to bother with all of that, And then she shared with me the reason for it. And I said, whoa, Dr. Zohar is going to be there. I got to go. The ambassador is going to be there. I got to go. And such an honor and a privilege, but a real opportunity. And then, of course, when I heard that Gary would be here and so many other distinguished individuals here from the county and so forth, I was just pleased and said I had to be among those individuals because this doesn't happen all the time. As many of you may know, I chair the California State Board of Equalization, which is arguably the most powerful tax administration agency in the world, and certainly in the nation, in the United States. But I believe fundamentally as the chair that power is measured by one's ability to empower others, and that we achieve that by getting connected to one another, getting to know each other. So this presentation, this conference is extremely important, and I want to encourage you, if you do nothing else today, get to know the executives that are here, get to know that the distinguished elected officials that are here from our homeland, because it's extremely valuable to begin to extend that process, to build those bridges to the other side of the world, if you will. To just share with you, I think, how important it is to be connected, and I'm going to share that quite often because I think power not only is when we embrace one another, when we connect to one another, there's an extension that happens between us. There's a flow of emotions that it carries. So not only are we doing business together, but we also have relationships. They often say that business is important, but relationships are far more important. Today, on my way here, they gave me a speech that was about 50 pages long and told me you had 10 minutes to something like that to deliver the speech. And I knew I had the wrong speech because it started by saying, thank everyone for the standing ovation. Such that didn't happen, and and I really wasn't able to really print the speech out. As I sat at the computer for some reason wasn't working, and I wasn't able to get the job done. And so I was trying to figure out what was wrong. So I asked my wife Yvonne. I said, Yvonne, did we pay the bill? She says, yeah, we paid the bill. And then my granddaughter came to me and she said, Papa. I said, what, honey? She says, I know what's wrong. She says, I said, what? You can't work and you can't get your job done and you can't make things happen because you're not connected. So let me encourage you to make sure that you get connected. Also, as the Board of Equalization, many people don't know what this is, and it's a strange sort of animal, but it generates over $58 billion for the state of California. We have offices in Chicago, New York, Texas, here in the state of California, some 10,000 employees, lawyers, investigators, accountants, CPAs, and so forth we employ in the state of California, not only for tax administration, but to encourage and to inspire businesses to grow and be successful here in the state of California. Someone once said that death and taxes are two things that we simply can't avoid. As the equalizer at the Board of Equalization, I want to say to you that I've never raised anyone from the dead. However, I have helped a few businesses, if you will, come back to life after the death of taxation. So let me encourage you to reach out to my team of folks to do what we can to help grow business here in the state of California. As the businesses begin to come, let us be the first, if not among the first, that you connect with so you can understand the laws that exist in California to minimize the frustration of doing business. And we're also a bridge because every business in the state of California engages with the Board of Equalization. We do seminars up and down the state, and this last week we had a seminar with 2,000 businesswomen, and I was so pleased to be here because after being among 2,000 businesswomen, you can imagine how I felt. But it was exciting just to see the power in the room of 2,000 businesswomen. So we encourage you to allow us to be helpful. Allow us to engage in such a way. You're so important to the United States, and you're certainly extremely important to me. A little bit about California, if you will. You heard a lot, but California is the Pacific Rim for the rest of the world. We have 7 of the largest ports, over 30 airports here in the state of California. California has over 34 million consumers. 34 million consumers, and recently I understand I was listening to the phone trying to figure out if they approved the high-speed rail, which is certainly something we want to encourage individuals to track the path of that rail, because on every stop at that rail is where business and business opportunities will be able to engage. We also gross $1.9 trillion in our gross national product. California has been viewed as the largest state in California. Certainly most of the venture capital is spent here in California. Also, in international trade, which is something that I know that's near and dear to you, it is known that over 90% of the consumers in the entire world will be outside of the United States. 90% of the consumers will be outside of the United States. Yet still, the United States and California will generate most of the products that would go to those consumers. So let me encourage you to continue this process of building businesses in California. California exports to Mexico $26 billion, Canada $17.2 billion, $66 billion to the Asian Pacific region, and $14 billion to mainland China, and $13.1 billion in revenue and services to Japan, just to give you some understanding of how important this connection that we're making here in California. And finally, California exports to Europe somewhere around $26 billion in product. What does that mean to you today? Well, that means that the $20 billion in product that exported from your homeland here to the state of California, the United States, and all over the world, our 34 million consumers can double that for you. By building businesses and connecting here in California, we can take the $20 million in exports and the new new oil line and everything else that you're working on in the homeland, you can begin to explore that and build that, and that can grow here in the state of California. So we certainly understand the essence of what's happening and what the Chamber is doing in California to connect it to and to begin to build the bridges. To that extent, I applaud the leadership here in the state of California, Gary, and the mayor of the city of Los Angeles, who, by the way, sends his greetings. I just got a text from him. He wanted me to say to you on behalf of the mayor of the city of Los Angeles, thank you so very much, and apologize for him not being able to be here personally. But he's been charged with the responsibility of dealing with the politics all over the world now, representing the governor and as well as the president of the United States. We won't go into that. You know, politics is pretty interesting sometimes. There's a combination of poly and tactics, which means that having many strategic tactics on accomplishing things. But some of us that are in politics, we understand that often, or every now and then, poly and ticks actually means many blood-sucking animals. Just kidding. That's not on tape, is it? Let's make sure we cut that. John, can you take care of that? But I applaud the leadership here for all of that they're doing, not only for just coming here. This is just historic. This is fabulous having you here. I only wish I had known about it earlier. I think I was told somewhere maybe a week ago or something like that. Maybe I've been told earlier or something. But I would have liked to have had this conference, this whole convention center filled with California businesses, and make that opportunity even richer. So I want to pledge to you, as Congresswoman Laura Richardson did, is let's continue this effort. Let's form a committee so next year we can expand, we can make it greater, and then as we begin to go through this process, we can begin to build the bridge to the other side of the world. While you're here, let me encourage you, California has some of the most beautiful wine countries in the world. I tell you, I was riding on a horseback for my first time, and boy, did I say a prayer. God give me dominion over animals, like you said. This huge animal is just frightening to me. And so we rode from one winery to the other, and when I got to the first winery, I was nervous and everything, but for some reason they had us sipping on something called Bouget or something like that. And by the time I got back on the horse, it was a piece of cake. But we certainly want to encourage you to visit the wineries. California is also, which is interesting, we're one of the greatest exporters of strawberries. Strawberries, wine, but also technology, biomedicine, and stem cell research and so forth. It's just the fabulous things are happening here in California. Over half of the investment capital in the United States is spent here in the state of California for a reason. We're taking innovation and green dreams and imaginations and making them reality here in the state of California. So we want you to bring your dreams here. We want you to expound on your imagination here in the state of California as well as the United States. But as you travel this great state and you learn about the strawberries, the wine, and the technology and everything, hopefully you will purchase a phone, a little bit of wine, and a little bit of strawberries. But don't combine them too, because if you drive, drink, eat strawberries, and text on the phone, it's illegal here in the state of California. So we also have a few laws that we want to make sure that you subscribe to. Again, encouraging you to come back and chat with us. So, and let us do this, just in closing, I think it's so fundamentally important that I talk about changing a paradigm. There is a paradigm in business that occurred some years ago, and we all learned it in school. What it basically said, the business is about location, location. That is no longer true. It is about getting to the cutting edge and being on the cutting edge and being creative and so forth. That in itself is just no longer true at all. I believe that we must take a giant leap of faith and go beyond the cutting edge. We must jump over the cutting edge. We must take our imagination, our creativity, and just take that giant leap of faith into California and over to the Ivory Coast and so forth. Because the reality is, if you look back in history, one of the phenomenal things in history, as our MC, who's doing a fabulous job, said that we were on this plane, this flight, and I thought about these two individuals. They were called the Wright brothers, and what I realized is that they didn't begin to fly until they pushed the plane over the cutting edge. And so we want to encourage you to do that, to go beyond the current cutting edge. And I'm going to ask in closing that you do me a quick favor, if you will. I ask that everyone stand, and just stand up for 1 second here, and take a little commercial, turn around, introduce yourselves, and introduce yourself to each other. Tell them who you are. Let's begin by having this family relationship and so forth. Oh, isn't that? Now this is what I call the wonderful thing. Oh, fabulous, fabulous. Now let the conference begin. Madame, Monsieur, I don't know how to say it, quite frankly, but have your seats, please, okay? Give an opportunity to make money. I see we have a money-making crowd here. I tell you, boy, if we give these folks an opportunity to have a commercial, boy, they're going to write one and produce it. But, and now, we present to the entire delegation and to the Los Angeles Ivory Coast American Chamber of Commerce, which is just, thank you so very much for all the work you do. I'm just honored always whenever I'm in your presence. This gentleman is working extremely hard trying to connect the dots and begin the process of building the bridge. Please stand, if you will, as I make this presentation to everyone. There you go, there you go. It says a lot of wonderful things about a lot of fabulous people and a wonderful place to go, the Ivory Coast and the American Chamber of Commerce and so forth. And so it just tries to exude with pride about what's happening here today. But let me make this presentation on behalf of the California State Board of Equalization and all of its members. Would you please join me, all the dignitaries as well? We'd like you to join. Mr. Tobin, if you can join me as well, and so forth. And all the elected officials, please join me up here. And Madam NC, you're doing such a fabulous job. I'm going to ask you to come up here as well. And let's just get this family group together and take the pictures. Where's the president? Come on in, Mr. President. All right. In the middle, they told us. Okay. All right. All right. All right. Okay. We got this resolution. I always figured about this.
Okay. Did you touch the resolution?
Yes, sir.
All right. Here we are. Look at this way right here. Everybody right this way.
Touching it seems to mean something.
Move in just a little bit.
Thank you.
Applause for Honorable Horton. I think we're cruising. With that, I don't even know where to continue. And in the spirit of, acknowledging, how special you all are, I'd really like to acknowledge some, for some of our guests that are here, and that really just speaks to the fact that we are a community that stands together. And the equalizer just spoke. And in the spirit of that, I'd like to really thank the following. Honorable Roland York, where's your honorable? Thank you so much. Consul General of Belize. So Belize is in the house. I'd really like to thank Mr. Darrell Smith, who I didn't even see when you snuck in. Thank you, VP of the Africa Channel, doing a fabulous job representing the motherland out here. Mr. Hugh Gefole, Regional Director of MoneyGrams, right here. Thank you, Hugh. A very good friend that's really helping us with all our shipping needs, Mr. Algis Golbinas. Thank you for coming. I'd like to really thank Dr. Yao Adotwum, who makes us proud. Okay. CEO of New Design Chartered School, a school that's really helping our kids evolve and do well in the sciences and mathematics. And Dr. Yao doing a fantastic job. Thank you. I see my sister Obichi Enterprise, who is really really making us proud, showing us how women can do well in enterprise and business. Thank you. My sister from South African Airlines, Paula Newton, thank you. She's here. I'd really like to thank someone that has really put Africa on the map through art, business, enterprise, Mr. James Burke, who annually does the Africa Marketplace. Thank you so much. I'd really like to thank, you see this banner here, without this beautiful thing that makes us realize why we're here, sitting right at the back and doing all the filming that would, doing anything you do and you don't involve media is sometimes a waste of time, because history is going to look to that to know that we were here. So I'd really like to thank CNE TV, who's really covering this for us. They're at the back, very busy. I'd like to thank my brother over there, World Intercom Technologies, who is actually right now streaming live. So let's be careful now. He might not have time to edit. I'd really like to thank Mr. Nana, who is an attorney from Ghana. Mrs. Nana, thank you. And also, speaking of media, Carrie Press in the house, thank you so much. Where are you? Thank you. And not forgetting one that my sister who did that fabulous introduction for me, Vuvuzela Media and Marketing, Charlotte, and her partner in crime. Yes. So just so we know that, we are surrounded by good people. Okay. So I really want us to move on, and if I omitted anybody, trust me, I'll come back. So my brother is whispering, and I was just about to talk about this fabulous gentleman that has really brought a bridge. We oftentimes, as people of African descent, wonder what it would be like to be united with our fellow brothers who came here in a different way. Some of us here came here by plane, and some of us came here other ways. So I really want to introduce someone that has taken it further. He's here not just for that, but he's here to speak about trading, African trade. And it's a brother, if you had the opportunity to meet with him, you'd know that you've met a bridge. I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Uchenna Wogu. Mr. Uchenna Wogu is the current chair of the California State Senate District 26th Committee on African Trade and Investment. He is also a freelance investment and marketing consultant serving the business community's interest in Africa. He is the founder and CEO of Africa Focus, Inc., a nonprofit organization in Los Angeles with a mission of uniting continental Africans and the African diaspora through various programs, including the African Goodwill Awards and Family Induction Ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Uchenna.
Good morning. I wish I can speak French. So you guys owe me one. Hopefully somebody can educate me on how to do that. I'm here to represent Senator Corinne Price, who is unable to be here this morning. Of course, we have to get the budget going in Sacramento, and we need our vote. So I would like to thank the President, Dr. Zhao, on behalf of the Senator and the members of the California African Trade and Investment Committee. Senator Price has always been an advocate of bilateral trade. He even took it further by establishing the District California Trade and Investment Committee, which happens to be the chair. And Bobby, you better stop. I'm looking at Bobby's hands. And there is many people who have been part of this initiative. I also have among us here one of the committee members, Norman Arikwa. Norman? He also was a member of that committee. It was a committee of 15 members from various industries. The reason why the senator felt compelled to have this committee was the fact that we're doing well, the business are doing well, the major businesses are doing well, they know how to navigate their ways in Africa. Shell doesn't need us, neither the major corporations, they don't need us. They know how to get their business going. But what about the small businesses? What about the startup businesses? How are they navigating the system? I know there are many programs that are doing well, that are supporting businesses to find their footing in the continent. But once the committee started looking into how best to support and encourage entrepreneurs to take advantage of the emerging African market, we realized that we also need to know what is their own interest. what is stopping a businessman from Ivory Coast catching the flight, coming to LA, and get those goods in real time in Africa? And why is it that, what is the block? Why is it easier for them to catch the red-eye flight to Beijing or to India, and the goods will be in the market the next day, or in 2 days, or in 3 days? We're talking about real time here. What is the financial products available and accessible to all of us, those who are interested in going to business for the first time? These are all the questions that the committee were charged to look into. And I'm happy to inform you this morning that although I will not announce the findings for the senator, I wish he was here to do it, but in upcoming weeks and months, we are looking into a major breakthrough and supplementing the effort of Glacier, I believe, and also other agencies that are out there pushing trade, out there making things practical. Until we can find ways to encourage startup businesses, small businesses, it's going to be difficult for us to take full advantage of emerging opportunities in Africa. Glacier has brought it up to us. We don't even need to travel. We have them. They can break it down. They can navigate, help us navigate the process. But at the end, we still need to have a reformed financial product that will make it easy for us to compete with the Asians in the continent of Africa. Or else, what we're going to have, we hear all about it, 85% of the US companies do not export. Those who do actually export think of Africa as a low market priority. It's a fact. But having said that, it's an opportunity for me, opportunity for everybody here. I hope they don't export, so that we be the one to do the exporting. But we can't do that until we figure out how to empower the small businesses and understand the differences between African economy and the US economy. I say this to say that one size don't fit all. You can look into what happens in the small businesses across Africa. It is what we call cash and carry economy. Many of them have the actual cash. Many of them, their market timing is different from ours. While we're getting our bank documents together, we get in the bank, talk to my bank talk to you, the product is already in the market, because they have that flexibility, they have that mobility, they have alternative. As much as they prefer buying from made in US, everybody wants it, but the system has to be more friendly. And that is what the committee is looking into, and that is the area that I believe this chamber and other agencies can work together, make sure that those dreams actually do come true. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and I know I don't have a whole lot of time here, but I just want to let you know that the Senator, Corinne Price, is pretty much behind this project. He's pretty much looking for working with the chamber, working with every other organization or trade entities out there to make sure that small businesses, startup businesses, newcomers have a shot at what is going on in the continent. And at that, I would like to thank everybody for coming, and I would like to thank the President for inviting the Senator and also giving us opportunity to work with the chamber to find a lasting solution, an opportunity to incorporate many people who are interested in doing business in the continent. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Uchenna. Hopefully, we're taking notes. If we don't have any sheet of paper, you want a note, I can give you some sheets of paper and pens, because there's a lot of education going on, and it's very important. But right now, first of all, I'd really like to acknowledge another media company that's here and that I overlooked because they were too important. They're so important because, guess what? They're not from here. They came all the way from New York. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause for Ivoire TV from New York. Special people. So now you know, even New Yorkers will know what's happening in Los Angeles. And as Honorable Horton said, California is such a rich state. I'm still wondering, isn't California still the 5th largest economy in the world, or did that change? We're the 7th now? What happened? Okay, as you can see, we're getting set up. We're gonna take a little break, and so let's relax. Good thing we already stood up and had a little stretch. Oh, great, sounds like the ambassador is here. You know, you come to someone's house, the host isn't there, and we're just going along while waiting for him. The ambassador, His Excellency Diabate, he's here now. So we will be receiving the ambassador shortly. While we do that, any questions? Not that I can answer them. The drummers are here. And so I would like to introduce to you a band that I recently experienced this weekend on Congolese Independence Day celebration. It was fabulous. And it's led by Matamala, Mr. Matamala, and the name of his band is the Weusi National Drummers. Give a round of applause to the Weusi National Drummers.
Kamara, and I'd like to welcome Ivory Coast here to America. We are the blacks, the Africans of North America. And the music that we're playing is called Weusi music. So we welcome you here, we blacks, Africans of North America.
drummers. Let's give them a round of applause. That was beautiful, and they'll be coming up shortly at some point, but that was great entertainment. And now we're relaxed, and we're going to continue our program. I know sometimes we just have to listen because this is a lot of good information to get to know one another, for networking, and most of us sitting here are business owners, so very vital information. So we're going to continue the program, and I'd like to introduce to you someone that is very good as far as business and trade, Mr. Jim McClellan. Is he here in the room? Mr. Jim? Good. So just to tell you a little bit about Mr. McClellan. Jim McClellan is responsible for trade promotion programs to encourage increased trade through the Port of Los Angeles and the Southern California Gateway. This includes outreach programs to encourage and assist local small, medium-sized businesses to consider export markets. He's also responsible for outreach to cargo owners and their professional associations. He has held this position since January 2007 and previously was Director of Marketing, at which time he directed marketing programs, coordinated the activities of the Port's 10 international offices, and worked with both customers and service providers to help build the Port's long-term clientele. Prior to joining the Port of Los Angeles in 1992, he spent more than 20 years working internationally in the maritime and intermodal shipping businesses. He teaches an annual course on international shipping at the Monterey Institute Graduate School of International Studies, and additionally has taught intensive summer courses on shipping and trade for MBA students at UCLA Anderson Graduate School of Business. A member of several local international organizations, he currently serves as director of the Pacific Chapter of the United States, Mexico Chamber of Commerce, the Foreign Trade Association, and is vice chairman of the Southern California Regional District Export Council, U.S. Department of Commerce. He is a member of the World Trade Week Committee of the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce. Mr. McClellan, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very kind introduction. Et bonjour à tout le monde et bienvenue à Los Angeles. And to Your Excellency and to the Honorary Consul General and to the dignitaries from the Ministry of Finance of the Côte d'Ivoire, as well as the Office of the Congresswoman Laura Richardson and the Office of the Honorable Jerome Horton, and of course, especially to Dr. Zhao for his warm hospitality. I'd like to extend a warm welcome from the Port of Los Angeles, which is the largest port in America. It is also an honor to offer a few brief remarks. I know we don't have too much time, but I thought I would touch on the subject of increasing trade and investment between the Côte d'Ivoire and also between other West African countries in particular, and Southern California. Since the Second World War, the US government has tried several initiatives to try to increase trade with sub-Saharan Africa. But despite that, today, our trade remains quite low, especially if oil and primary products are taken out of the equation. So I think it is imperative that we try to improve the current situation, and there's 4 points I'd like to very quickly touch upon which may be critical to that goal or mission. The first is emerging markets, security, resources, and trade opportunities. So first, if I could talk very briefly about emerging markets, it's no surprise that we have a middle class in Africa that's growing extremely rapidly. This creates a large new consumer base, and this helps the United States in having a prospective market of great importance. It is also a young population, which means that these are the future consumers of tomorrow, and they will be increasingly important to our economy. There are also the cultural links which have been mentioned with the African diaspora, which can provide a great bridge of facilitation of commerce, as witnessed here today. The future also of bilateral tourism is an exciting one, and mutually beneficial for both societies on many levels. The second point I'd like to mention is increased security concerns. There is great stress today on maritime trade because of piracy off the coast of Somalia. For example, it costs over $1 million each time a ship has to cross the Somalian coast to go through the Suez Canal. This, however, offers up great opportunities for looking at a different direction, a different hub from, for example, the west coast of the United States through the Panama Canal to West Africa and South Africa. So I think there's great opportunities in seeing how we can make use of the current geopolitical situation to increase our trade with West Africa. I think the time is right. And I would like to say that the Panama Canal, which will be opening its expanded capacity in 2014, will hopefully make it more economical for us to have trade with West Africa. There's also the issue of food security. And the food security issue is one that confronts both the United States and other countries. We have each, in Cote d'Ivoire and the United States, respective strengths in agriculture. I would propose that through cooperative long-term agreements, we could ease security concerns with regard to food and increase trade in both agriculture, food and beverages, and also wines, as was mentioned by the Honorable Jerome Horton. Also, a final point I'd make on security is that the increase of international terrorism risk could be offset by stronger cooperation on a security basis between countries on West Africa like Cote d'Ivoire and the United States. The third point is resources. There's no question that in addition to agriculture, there is many scarce resources that can be provided by the African continent. The U.S. needs to have secure, long-term, stable relationships with sub-Saharan Africa. The abundance also of human resources is extremely important. An educated, youthful population in Cote d'Ivoire opens up the opportunities for a broad creative collaboration in the arts, culture, and sports, as well as in emerging technology and web-based commerce, which opens the door to smaller and micro enterprises. And finally, technical cooperation between Southern California and Cote d'Ivoire would assist us in mutually raising the value added to many products so that we can increase their value. And fourth, I'd like to talk about trade opportunities. As mentioned, the expansion of the Panama Canal will provide us with an opportunity to reach West Africa more easily. And also the establishment of long-term relationships will build a more stable future for both societies. I would propose that we take out of the realm of a roulette wheel the trade that ultimately impoverishes and look to more stable long-term relationships. Also, city-to-city relationships are a very creative way for us to increase our collaboration. Sometimes city-to-city or metropolitan area to metropolitan area economic cooperation can be more effective than federal initiatives. And so I think this is a great opportunity for us to meet on a local basis here. And in Los Angeles region, we have many companies and individuals with the skills to assist with trade development. On the national level, however, I'd like to make my final point, which if we can take a futuristic approach to a free trade agreement, I think we can move forward to another level. How do we move forward? I think that AGOA, USAID, and other initiatives were meant to improve trade, but really have effectively failed to do so because our trade, if you look at the statistics, is still so small. But of course, this means that we have a great opportunity. So I think we should expand it beyond the few basic commodities. And we need a long-term trade development policy between the United States and Cote d'Ivoire. And the free trade agreements can provide a venue that can be crafted to help both societies. And I think that as well, governments at all levels should maybe, I would propose possibly with the consent and consensus of everybody, should meet on a regular basis in certain key priority sectors to see if we can provide an umbrella and a base of support to move the cooperation between the private sector and these sectors forward. So in addition to that, I would say that some concrete action that could be taken would be that we have to give more of an Africa focus to the National Export Initiative. I know Bobby Hines of the Department of Commerce is leading a trade mission to Africa, which is a key component of actually achieving that goal. And AGOA provides no incentives to building export capacity, so we need to go beyond that. So I think we should target Africa as a priority for the State Department as well as the Department of Commerce, and initiate fast-track agreements to improve our bilateral trade for the mutual benefit of both societies. If we increase bilateral trade and increase the diversity and value of that trade, if we meet that challenge, both societies can be enriched and above all, job creation can be enhanced. So I would say that if we can join together to make efforts to increase the involvement also of entrepreneurs, micro enterprises, and also small to medium-sized businesses, they would have the real potential for substantially increasing long-term job creation. So I sincerely apologize if I've exceeded my time limit, and I'm so excited about the future of building trade together, and I'd like to wish this particular economic exhibit, which I think is a very historic one, as the Honorable Jerome Horton said, the very best of success, not only for today, but hopefully for the doors it will open in the future. Thank you very much.
Vous l'avez découvert ici. Encore un hit que vous avez découvert. Ivoire TV. Ivoire TV.